had to worry about money, I could not be creative and do the deal. But I really encourage everyone, or even the younger people, to really start investing. If you're interested in commercial real estate, to think a lot bigger, you have to take action, really find someone, having a good mentor to help you reach those goals, to avoid some of the pitfalls, and it's worth paying them and teaming up with them.
What's your expectations of the economic climate moving forward? 6, 12 months from now, do you have any thoughts on?
It's a big year this year, what's happening, and
This is your Real Estate Syndication Show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Pam Goodwin. She's founder and CEO of Goodwin Commercial, based in Dallas, Texas, an award-winning bouquet of commercial real estate and consulting firm since 2006. Long record of successfully guiding local and national clients such as Walgreens, McDonald's, Chase Banks, with their commercial real estate acquisitions. So just 30 plus years of experience in development and buyer tenant representation and project management, leasing, the development process. I mean, a number of things in commercial real estate that she elaborates on today. And how to get into that space, right? The first deal is always the hardest. And she's going to elaborate on a number of ways today for you. If you are, even if you're a passive investor, but you want to find a piece of real estate that you want to own or get into that space, she is going to lay that out there today. Some challenges that maybe you should know about beforehand, even her economic expectations going forward, and things I want to know, and I know that you do as well. Pam, welcome to the show. Honored to have you on.
Thank you so much. I love spreading the word about how to invest in real estate. One of my huge passions. So thank you so much, Whitney.
No, honored to meet you. As I've learned more about you, I cannot believe you've not been on the show before now, over 2,000 shows. But you definitely have become very well known in the commercial real estate space, and so I'm looking forward to the value you're going to add to the listeners today. And before we get to that, elaborate on your commercial real estate focus, right? What do you do in commercial real estate now? And then, let's highlight, maybe give us a challenge even, through your real estate process or journey, right? To get to where you're at today.
We're based here in Dallas, Texas, and we focus on developing the single tenant net lease properties, which means we typically buy anywhere from 1 to 5 acres, and we'll do either a build a suit or ground lease with the national tenants. So we've done work for Walgreens, Chase, and McDonald's, and those type tenants. And I always think every single I've been doing this for some capacity of commercial real estate for 35 years. And every single deal, as you know, is completely different. And I learn right when you think you know everything in the business, in the real estate, especially commercial real estate, every deal is a learning experience. And I think that's why I love it, because it's a challenge. Everyone's a challenge to get it through the finish line. It's a great industry to be in.
Yeah, as soon as you think you have it figured out, right? But then you just do another deal and you figure out you don't. Right.
I know. I had a buyer last week. He's like, I am not buying title insurance. I'm like, that is a first. I'm like, call my title company. I'm like, they don't want to buy title insurance. They had already looked it up. What do we do? And they're like, oh, that's okay. It's a risk they take. But I'm like, that's a first.
Yeah, that is a first. Wow. Well, I know you have a big focus on helping people get to that first deal, right? And maybe you highlight some of the issues that people have, or maybe even a common or maybe uncommon thing that people deal with, right? Or challenges that they face getting to that first deal, and how you help them. And let's start there.
A little bit about my background. I have a degree in interior design. So a lot of people ask me, how did you go from interior designer to investor? And as I mentioned, I've been in it for a while, but I had a great opportunity of working for large shopping center developers. And then I had the opportunity, I wanted to find out the tenant side, and went to go work for Brinker International, based here in Dallas, and had the opportunity to develop more than 50 Chili's from the ground up. So it was a great way to get a lot of experience. And then talking to a landlord, found out that they would sell one of these triple nets and profit around $800,000. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to do that. And I found a great mentor here in Dallas. He'd been developing properties for 50 years and had done some Chili's, and took me under my wing to find my first deal. And I thought it was going to be a Chili's deal. I left on good terms and found a piece of property, small town here in Texas. And that's how I found my first deal. Worked with them, and Chili's did not go forward because they decided to cut back. But we ended up flipping the property to Discount Tires, and I doubled what I would have made in that whole year of working at Chili's. And I was hooked on real estate. And there's so many great ways. So in the last 18 years of developing property, I love helping people and sharing. They have the misconception that you have to have a lot of money. And I always believe in OPM, that term of which I've like other people's millions. So I've always used their, developing. I've provided the sweat equity is what I really like to help people with, finding the deal. Because there's, as you know, there's a lot of money out there. It's finding the deal. That can be the tricky part, but they're out there. I always say everything's for sale. It's just a matter of time and money.
I want to get to that finding the deal a little bit, because that is a problem, right? Especially right now. It's a big problem for us. That's for sure. Finding the deal is difficult. But I wanted to highlight too, you mentioned the mentor. He'd been in the business for 50 years, right? Was he somebody who was a mentor for hire, or was this somebody that you just found that, they didn't do this as a business as well, mentoring, I mean, but somehow you were able to, work with him. What was that relationship like, and how did you approach him if he wasn't someone that was a mentor for hire?
All right. He was not a mentor for hire. I put together a business plan of all the contacts, all the people that I knew that, I could possibly go to for business. And I just met with some different landlords who were developing the Chili's. And I just happened to meet with him, put my business plan together. And he was so, wonderful enough that he actually helped pay my salary of what I was making. Because he always said, if I had to worry about money, I could not be creative and do the deal. And I just saw, we were partners for 4 years. And I'm still in contact with him. He turns 88 this month. And I still love meeting with him because he's just a wealth of information. And our first deal that we put together, I was representing Chase Bank, and we ended up finding 5 acres in our first deal together. After we flipped the property to Discount Tires, our next deal was I found 5 acres in another small town, and we developed a build-to-suit for Walgreens, Chase, and McDonald's together. But he really helped me walk me through the entire process. I knew how to develop property, but I didn't know how to do the pro forma, how to get the bank loan, in that part. And my sweat equity that I brought to the table was, I know my expertise is the due diligence on the property of hiring the civil and the contractors and working with the city and getting all that approved.
Yeah, that's incredible. I knew early on I was so hesitant to say, pay for a mentor, right? Or, to, make that big purchase. And, looking back, I can't imagine where I'd be without have done that, doing that. And now I look for mentors in numerous aspects of my life, right? Whether it's, the business or my faith and family. And, just, I want those people who are way ahead of me. And it sounds like you found that 50 years of experience. That's incredible. It sounds like he was really, he had an interest in your success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you all partnered, but he also paid you to help him, right? Or to do this. And so that's a pretty unique situation. And his outlook on, if you're, that it would hinder your, creative ability, right? If you were so focused on having to make the money, right?
Right. It was really beneficial. And I thank him to this day because I've had my own business now for 18 years, and we specialize in consulting work and development and brokerage on selling those investment properties. And because, once I left Brinker, which was a great company, I have always had that entrepreneur. It's in my blood. And so I always knew that And I always tell people, if you're not waking up on Monday morning, like loving your job of what you're doing, you're completely in the wrong position. And I would completely get bored. I mean, I had really good corporate jobs, but about that 2 or 3 years into the position, I just was like Friday already dreading Monday, and now having my own business and that freedom. We had younger kids at the time, and I had that mom guilt of missing school opportunities. And now this gives me the flexibility and the freedom to have my own company, and now to really, really give back. I was really focused on achievement, and now I'm more on the fulfillment part of the later part of my career of giving back. But I love helping people find their first deals. And, I can give some good examples of that just in the last 30 days of some deals we just found.
Let's do that. Let's jump in there and maybe give some tips or details how you found the deals for the people listening, and then dive into those projects a little bit.
Just in later life, I've also learned, of collaboration and finding a good partner and somebody you trust. So someone else, another friend of mine, she's in the business. She's been in it a long time too. And she's always been with the director of real estate for big companies, and just decided this year to focus back on development. We had bought in properties together. But one of the first projects I always believe in working with your local economic development director. Most every single city has one, and the cities, you can go on any of like your local city and go on their website, and a lot of the cities own a lot of available properties. So we hit one small town that had 6 acres right across from Walmart on a major highway. And so we put that under contract. They have 6 acres, the city does, and they let us put that under contract and are giving us a lot of time to work on that. And so that's exciting. We've, been marketing that and have a couple national tenants looking at it right now. And then another deal, you may have noticed that a lot of banks are going out of business and are vacant. So we actually put a property in Birmingham, Alabama, a Regions Bank that's just a little under 4,000 square feet for a really, really good deal. And now we're marketing that for hopefully to find another credit union or a fast food person to go in that opportunity. But you can drive around and see some of the vacancies. We really focus on, it's easier to buy a vacant Kentucky Fried Chicken if you can find one of those and re-tenant it into a coffee place. We do development from the ground up, but it's nice to get started just on a redevelopment project.
Yeah. Is that something that you would advise somebody that's not done a development deal yet that they could do? Or is this like, something that, they need some experience before they could go buy something like an old KFC and convert it, or that 6 acres with the economic developer?
I would say on both of those, you do need some experience, or teaming up. We're always looking for partners in the deals. Like I said, the money is the easy part to find. It's the deals. So if any of your listeners are like, hey, I know of, a vacant space, or I know of this restaurant that may be going out, to team up with someone like me. And we always give equity in the piece for finding that deal. I would say you do have to have experience, but the first one is always the hardest. But there's a lot of people that, just go into it blindly and can lose money. But I always advise just partnering up with someone that does have experience on those first few deals that you do, just like you do in the multifamily. I would for sure partner up with you on investing, in that section, someone who has the experience, that can really look out for you to make sure you're going to have that cash flow.
Definitely a big partnership business, no doubt about it. Every deal. I mean, you can't buy something, I feel like, as large as these properties are without numerous people involved. And bringing all the expertise together has just been crucial, for us, right? I would never want somebody to invest with us and thinking that I'm the expert in every aspect of this business, right? That would not be wise. But Pam, what about some common challenges that the listener should expect, when purchasing a property like that? They found that KFC that's vacant, or that bank that's vacant, or what are some things that it's like, man, you need to know that this is going to happen, or this is common setback or challenge that you've learned to overcome?
Well, I know, like I mentioned before, every deal is different. Some of these cities are changing their zoning. I had one piece of property that it looked like it was just office space, and the city came in and had an overlay district, changing it out to retail. So the zoning is one of the biggest things that can impact you. And then another thing is with the Department of Transportation, they're coming in widening some of the space. They may just wipe out a good chunk of your parks out, your parking spaces out front. So it's really key to know, meeting with the city of what's happening with that. Some people may find, hey, I found a really cheap piece of property, but there are no utilities to the property, the wet and dry utilities, and those can really have an impact, or soil conditions. So there's a lot in when you're developing property. So sometimes a lot of people like to go, buying an existing building with an existing tenant in there. And so the risk is a lot less. And so there's always, especially in real estate, as you know, there are a lot of risk, but there's so many rewards. And what is it? 90% of the millionaires made their money through real estate. So I feel, it's a really, really good way, to get into investing and to have cash flow.
Speak to how, just the current economic climate, is affecting, your asset class, or, the piece of real estate that you're buying right now and focused on.
As you see on the news, a lot of it really does have to do with interest rates. It does affect, especially in commercial real estate. A lot of these people that had developed or had properties, just a couple years ago, they had interest only loans, and now their loans are coming up with some of these higher rates. So that's having an impact. But since we also sell investment properties, we represent buyers and sellers, and the sellers are having a difficult time not wanting to sell because there's not a lot to buy. And then the buyers that, we've worked with before, you're pretty much down to having cash, being a cash buyer, because those interest rates with the cap rates, in the 4 to 5 to 6%, and then you're taking out a loan at 8 and 9%, the numbers just do not work. So it's a big impact. Thank goodness we are here in Texas, and, we're still booming as far as, people wanting to move here.
So you're saying the buyers now pretty much have to be a cash buyer because of the interest rates. What's their long-term plan? I assume they're hoping interest rates come back down, they refinance, or what's the typical business plan there?
Right. That's exactly right. They're hoping that the interest rates, go down. If not, it's a lot of cash buyers. I did sell an office building. It was in the 1 million range. That was the first loan that I was representing the seller, but the buyer actually was taking out a loan. That was probably the first loan in at least 5 years. Everyone else has been cash buyers or 1031 buyers, acquiring property. But on these deals that my development partner and I, the two that we have right now, we've been talking to lenders, and I feel like they're starting to, they've been sitting back too. They really want to loan money too. So if you have the right property, they will loan, for you, to you. I mean,
What's your expectations of the economic climate moving forward? 6, 12 months from now, do you have any thoughts on this is what you expect to happen, or interest rates going up or down, or anything?
No, not to talk politics, but it's a big year this year of what's happening. And talking to some, my clients, they are on hold, to see what really happens. And I mean, I have buyers that only want to buy in red states. It's really interesting to me. And so it does have an impact. 35 years, as soon as I graduated from college, the market completely went down. So in 35 years, I have seen the ups and downs, and I have to just turn the TV off and go out there and work the market, because people are still eating out at restaurants. People are still shopping. The cities all want entertainment venues. And so I'm just I've been at it a long time, so I have to avoid some of that and just keep plugging away, kind of pivoting here and there. But there's still a lot of business out there and opportunity all day long, more than more than you can really handle.
Yeah, I love the thought or the comment on managing what you're taking in, right? What's feeding you and feeding your fears almost, right? And making you not want to go out there and make it happen. I was speaking at an investor event this past Saturday in Orlando, and where we met at for dinner, I didn't expect this, but there was just an amazing square and venue. There was a live band and restaurants and shopping, all around it, and it was just very nicely done. It was all new, but it was obvious, man. People still crave that stuff, right? They're still going out and spending it, right, and doing those things. So, no, that's incredible. What about thinking back over? You mentioned like 30 years of experience in commercial real estate. Knowing what you know now, what do you wish you had known, 20 years ago even, or what would you have done different?
I would say, how you've heard before of thinking really big. I mean, and really investing a lot earlier. We have two sons that, just recently graduated from college, and our oldest son is actually in commercial real estate too for the last couple of years. But I really encourage everyone, or even the younger people, to really start investing in some format of commercial real estate. And they're always like, Mom, I don't have any money. I'm like, well, go find the deal and we will find the money. And so our son in San Diego found one location that was vacant, that we have been working on. But I would say, if you're interested in commercial real estate, to think a lot bigger. A lot of people feel like they have to get into single family, which it's fine if you want to start investing in single family residence. They always think you have to start there before you get into commercial. And my advice is that I would say you do not have to do that. You can start immediately in commercial real estate and find the deal. And you can post it on LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn. I post every day. Let's say you find a property and you need the money, just, post it and tell someone you're looking for money. And I guarantee you people will be reaching out to you on that. But yeah, looking back, just really investing in commercial real estate, holding the properties. I was taught, young, that debt is bad. And I found out later on that, debt can be good. I mean, we've owned properties before that, we have our tenants paying off the debt. And so a lot of that misconception growing up, I like to teach people and train people that, some debt is good. It can be good, and to think really big and to buy commercial real estate and to collaborate with people to have that opportunity.
Any other misconceptions that you deal with often when helping people?
I mean, just mainly in the commercial real estate. I spoke to a business owner today, and just the misconception of, well, a lot of people, a lot of small business owners want to get into, let's say a brick and mortar location, and they're not sure how to do that. But I think there's just a lot of misconceptions of, I mean, it is hard work, but you have to take action and, really find someone, how we talked about earlier, having a good mentor to help you reach those goals, to avoid some of the pitfalls. And it's worth paying them and teaming up with them. If you have a bakery and you don't know how to get started, I always believe in, finding the number one bakery company in your city and meeting with them. When I always look for a job, when I graduated in interior design, I wanted to do hotel design, and found the number one company at the time was, and I think they still are, but JW Marriott Hotel. And I did get a job offer with them, decided to stay in Omaha, where I'm from, or finding the, number one shopping center developer. I went to go work for them. Restaurant company, Brinker International at the time had 7 restaurants. So if you have to go work for those companies and learn from them from a small bit, if you're, looking, to start your own business. And then the business owner I talked today, he was talking about leasing, and I started telling him about owning the property instead of leasing, because it will be less to, most of the time, it can be less to actually own that property than to rent, and he can start building equity that way.
One thing I meant to ask you earlier was, this asset class specifically, like your the development piece, the buying the land. Say why did you stick with that versus multifamily or self storage or another asset class?
I guess I've always listened to, Warren Buffett. If, since he's from Omaha and I follow him, but he's always just stressed, and I stress just, you know, be an expert niche. Your riches are in the niches. And I've just always known single family. I've tried to explore in storage or multifamily. And then I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And it takes a lot to learn. I've invested in those different types of properties, but I'm not doing that myself. After developing just a single tenant, I just really like bringing a new restaurant or retailer to these smaller communities. Just even when we were doing the Chili's to a small community of 10,000 people, a new restaurant for their families. It's exciting to me working in small town. A lot of people don't want to work those markets. I love working those markets, and then bringing, it brings joy to me to bring a new concept or cleaning up a site and having a new concept is just what I, really enjoy doing.
Transitioning just a little bit, speak to your show, starting your show, and maybe how that's influenced you or your business.
I started the Pam Goodwin Show. I love learning about different business owners and how they got started. And so I started the Pam Goodwin Show interviewing, different, primarily women, the race car drivers, the first referee, Gigi's Cupcake, how she took out $100,000 in credit card debt to open up her first Gigi's Cupcake in Nashville, and what that took. And one of my clients is Captain Sandy from the TV show Below Deck Mediterranean. I was her real estate broker who helped her buy her. She bought an old firehouse in Jacksonville, Florida, but just, really learning about how people, what makes them succeed. And the number one commonality that I found with all of my interviews, the number one thing that everyone said over and over was sacrifice of what it took to, be the leader in their group.
Yeah, definitely takes sacrifice to make it happen, right? I'm sure you've experienced that personally as well.
Like I say, you just have to really, really love what you do. And, the older I get in my career, I find that, what truly brings, joy to me every single day, has made an impact, changed.
Pam, what would you say is your best advice for passive investors right now?
For passive investors, just finding those properties that really make sense, that you can get a good return. And as you know, the location is really, really key when you're, a passive investor. If you're doing the multifamily, or if, like in our case, we're doing the single tenant, it really comes down to what kind of the location and the growth in that area, and to make sure that it's going to be around for a long time. Kind of look at to see what's happening in the area. But I would say just invest. Investing in real estate passively is, to me, a lot more fun than investing in stocks and mutual funds. I think real estate's always fun to at least drive by and say, I own that, I own a portion of it. And I think for passive investors, it's just taking that action and continuing to invest in real estate.
What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your business right now?
Since we deal with a lot of the national tenants, and a lot of them, the challenge is a lot of them are not growing like they used to. And the biggest reason that they're not growing is because they cannot find the employees to work. That has a huge impact on expansion for a lot of the tenants we deal with. And then I don't develop in California, but just in April, the minimum wage for fast food has gone up to $20 an hour. The concepts, they're actually closing. A good friend of mine is the director of real estate for national, for McDonald's, and talking with her on expansion plans. They're expanding a lot, but it comes down to, it really comes down to the interest rates are the challenge. finding employees is the problem. The construction costs are still a problem when we do our pro forma. And by the time they build out in 8 months, they cannot guarantee any of their prices. So your pro forma, thinking that you're going to make a good amount of money for cash flow, or if you plan on selling it, it really changes. So a lot of those are really, have become challenging compared to how it used to be developing in the last, even 5 to 10 years. It has a big impact.
Has it changed the type of tenants that you all are focusing on?
We're still focused on the national tenants. The thing that's really happened, which is really surprising, even looking at dirt here in some of these smaller markets, it used to be 10 and 12 bucks for the land. We're looking at one small town and it's gone up to $30 and $35 a square foot. Those tenants can only make so much money out of their, restaurants or the, fast food people. And they only make so much amount. So once those rents get too high, they're not going to make it. And, like I mentioned, the employee is a big impact. Even in these large metroplexes or small towns, it's really impacting where to find people to work. I'm sure you've, it's impacting everywhere from, flying to eating out to medical to it's everywhere. It's like, where did all the people go to work? It has an impact on, all of us.
All right, Pam, just a few final questions, but what are some of the most important metrics that you track? It could be personally or professionally.
I'm just a huge research person. So I'm always just tracking what's happening in the world. I'm very active on social media, especially LinkedIn, and seeing what people are posting and what are concerns. I track every single day. I look up on LinkedIn what jobs are being posted because I know if that company is hiring, they are expanding. So I'm reaching out to them, and I'm tracking on Instagram. If I see a new concept that's expanding, I'm reaching out to them, and it's a great way to get leads on that. But I'm tracking a lot on social media to see what's happening, to see where people are traveling, where people are eating. And, it's a good resource that way.
I never thought about all those photos of people taking pictures of their food would be useful,
Right. Yeah.
That's
If
funny.
if I see someone posting a new restaurant, because I love that excuse of, hey, I gotta go check out that new place they just opened. It used to drive my kids and husband crazy because I just find everywhere I go, I can find a deal. I can find a deal, even from, going through the dry cleaners drive-through. I'm like, this would be a great location for a fast food, but I get a lot of my information on social media. I like tracking that for new concepts and bringing them, like I said, to the community. If I see a concept in California, I'm like, they need to be here in Dallas. Or if I see a new one in Florida, I'm like, they need to be here in Texas or Virginia, bring them to our location, a new concept. So that's how I get a lot of my data and research, and then reaching out to them.
What about some habits that you're disciplined about?
Every morning I wake up typically between the 6 and 6:30 and come into my office and have that quiet time of journaling and just thinking. I still use like 5x7, just basic index cards. And every morning I write down the main 3 goals that I have to accomplish for the day, but I'm dedicated to that. And then let alone, I have to work out. So it's part of my daily routine. And I make it a good mission to reach out to have lunch with someone new, or I'm very passionate about meeting with my friends, to always stay in touch with them. I make that a priority to do that. But I say no to a lot more and focus on what's really, really, brings me fulfillment these days.
I find that difficult. I find it it's like a learning process. I feel like I have to go through about once a year of like saying no to things, and maybe even more often. It's like the calendar keeps creeping to where it's just maxed out, right? And I have to go in and cut, and then all of a sudden does that again. Is there a way that you have found to know what your 20% is, right? The things that, that you need to be focused on the most. And so you can have a clearer filter of saying no and what you're saying yes to.
I know it is tough because there's a lot of opportunities out there, but my number one goal is still to have a national reality show on commercial real estate. So I at least write one goal a day to reach that. And then I have to, block out time. I even have like a salt timer. One mentor gave it to me before. It's like 15 minutes. And I have to like shut down everything. So if I want to read a book, I do my salt timer for 15 minutes every single day, just so that I can read that book, or that 15 minutes, I'm only making, phone calls at that time. I'm not looking at email or any social media. And it does take focus and dedication with all of the distractions today.
That's a good idea, having a timer like that versus everything that's going on your computer screen constantly, right? Pam, how do you like to give back?
I love to give back by, helping especially the younger generation that want to learn how to get into commercial real estate. I've had the opportunity to write 3 books. So if you're interested in that, I love sending you one. And then whatever you want to donate, I donate. In October of 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I give back by any of the book, money that we receive. I donate 100% to some of the local breast cancer groups. But I really love just giving back, reaching out to me. And, if I can help in any way on trying to find your first commercial real estate deal, or if you're interested, I mentor people, the younger in college that are interested to get into commercial real estate. So any way I can give back, I love doing that.
Pam, I'm grateful to have met you and had you on the show. Appreciate you just highlighting your process into commercial real estate and your focus and how you all are finding deals and converting that into really wealth, right? For yourself and for your clients, your partners, right? The partnerships that you were talking about, some of the issues that you highlighted through that process, whether it's zoning or whatnot, that you need to be familiar with. But grateful for your time, for your expertise. How can the people, the listeners, get in touch with you and learn more about you and your books?
Well, thank you. Follow me on LinkedIn, just under my name, Pamela J. Goodwin. I'm on there. And go to my website, pamgoodwin.com. Feel free to send me an email at pam@pamgoodwin.com. And let's just, get in touch with me. I'm happy, just to reach out to me, give me a call. My phone numbers are on my website and information. But if I can help out in any way, and if, just send me a message on LinkedIn or, regarding the books, and happy to send you one. And they're all on Amazon. They're all on Amazon too, at a good price. So you can also just buy the books on that. A couple of them have been collaboration of putting together a lot of the questions that, if people are interested in commercial real estate, one book has 20 experts from around the country. They all answered the same 15 questions about commercial real estate, and it has a lot of wealth of information. But thank you for the opportunity.